Global Times, 27th of October 2022, Vikrant, is it a problem of enhanced capability or insufficient capability? China is rapidly expanding its fleet of aircraft carriers to station them in Pakistan's Hambantota and Gwadar. One of the largest warships ever built by the Indian Navy, the 42,800-ton INS Vikrant, was recently commissioned. Vikrant, which means going beyond or courageous, is the name of a second aircraft carrier. The Vikrant, which measures 262 meters long and 62 meters wide, can transport about 26 fighter jets, MiG-29K, 4 airborne early warning helicopters, Ka-31, or 4 multirole helicopters, MH-60R. According to reports, a protracted cycle of sea trials for the carrier must be completed before the Rafael-M and F-18 Hornets can be fielded by the Indian Navy. The INS Vikrant, which took nearly 23 years and cost $2.9 billion, is an example of India's ambition for strategic adaptability. In India's future aircraft carrier force and the need for strategic flexibility, Iskander Rehman of the Institute of Defence Studies and Analysis in New Delhi argues that strategic flexibility is necessary because India had aimed for a 3-carrier fleet, with 1 on each seaboard and the 3rd serving as a reserve. The INS Vikrant has about 75% indigenous parts, which Indian Prime Minister Modi has referred to as a way to Atmanirbharta or self-reliance. According to Modi, Vikrant was a symbol of India reclaiming its lost strength, and the new vessel signaled the end of the last spots of servitude for India. A game-changer, Vikrant will go into service on September 2, 2022, allowing India to fulfill its anticipated position as the region's provider of network security. The carrier is also hailed as the product of India's developing marine consciousness. Does India require an aircraft carrier, and if so, what kind and why? These and similar questions have been voiced not only at the new aircraft carrier's commissioning but also before India's strategic direction started to view such ships as essential to safeguarding India's national interests. In their landmark work Arming Without Aiming, India's Military Modernization, released in 2010, Stephen P. Cohen and Sunil Dasgupta examined the causes of India's military buildup, which in their opinion, was proceeding without a clear goal or direction. China is currently approaching in a belligerent manner. India's military modernization, according to Cohen and Dasgupta, suffers from insufficient planning, individual service-centered doctrines, and divergence between strategic objectives and the pursuit of new technologies. The two claim that India's purchase of aircraft carriers is out of step with current conditions and the modernization required to counter emerging threats. While Ukraine has demonstrated that the world is increasingly focused on drone warfare technologies to combat expensive, capital-intensive warships war in Russia. Another part of the carrier's integration into the Navy results from a protracted strategic discussion about the country's intentions or goals to play a significant role in the world. However, such ambitions demand more robust and substantial carriers than the 42,000-ton Vikrant. As Ashley J. Tellis points out, this would, at the very least, necessitate a carrier that weighs more than 65,000 tons and has an air combat capability on par with ground-based aircraft. Even though India hopes to build the IAC-3, a page with this much weight, it is difficult to predict how Vikrant's operational fate will differ from that of the IAC-3, given the choice of fighters and the lengthy process of carrier construction with sea acceptance in comparison to the intricate bureaucratic procedures in India. Given the long-standing animosity between India and Pakistan, strategic coercion or compilation may not be necessary for India to deploy its carriers against Pakistan. China's aircraft carrier force, which will soon be based out of the port of Gwadar, poses the greatest threat. Deploying carriers could provide a significant vulnerability that the Indian Navy leadership may not be prepared to face, given the current capabilities of both Vikramaditya and Vikrant and the distinctive Arabian waterbread. In any future maritime conflict, the Pakistani Navy and Air Force will wait for an appropriate opportunity to strike alone or together against the Indian carrier battle groups due to carriers having inadequate carrier-borne and limited AWACS on land. According to the Indian Navy, Vikrant's operational future is questionable due in large part to his fragility on one side and his lack of mission efficacy on the other. Despite being more recent in the service, the Vikrant represents an old-fashioned design and may be considered more as a symbol than a strength, making its use in combat more of a puzzle than a capacity. As Crimson Tide's concluding lines emphasize, this problem will preoccupy the Indian Navy and the country's strategic community long after Vikrant begins his official tour of duty in 12 to 18 months. India is preparing for the actual threat posed by China.